Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln penny coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're diving into a fascinating piece of modern American coinage that might be hiding right in your pocket, and it could be worth way more than just 1 cent. We're talking about the 2009 Lincoln penny, specifically, the Formative Years design, minted to celebrate one of the most iconic figures in American history, President Abraham Lincoln. Now, you might think it's just another penny, but trust me, by the end of this video, you'll want to check your coin collection, and maybe even your couch cushions. So, what's the story behind this special coin? In 2009, the U.S. Mint released a special 4-coin series to mark the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself. Each design represented a different stage of Lincoln's life, and the second in the series, known as the Formative Years penny, is the one we're focusing on today. This coin features young Abraham Lincoln sitting on a log, reading a book with one hand and holding a tool in the other, a beautiful tribute to his humble beginnings in Indiana, where he grew up learning by firelight and hard work. It's not just a coin, it's a tribute to the American dream. Now here's where things get really interesting for collectors like you and me. At first glance, this penny might look like just another copper-coated coin. But don't be fooled, not all 2009 Formative Years pennies are created equal. Some of them have rare features, hard-to-find errors, and varieties that make them incredibly desirable in the numismatic world. Let's talk about what makes this coin rare. While the design itself isn't scarce, millions were made. The quality, the mint mark, and especially the errors are where the real value lies. Most of these coins were heavily circulated and worn down, so finding one in mint state condition, especially graded MS67 or higher, is already rare, but the true gems are the error coins. Collectors go absolutely crazy over these. One of the most well-known errors in this series is the double die reverse, also known as DDR. This means the design on the back of the coin was stamped twice by mistake, creating a doubled image. On the Formative Years penny, this doubling often appears on Lincoln's hands, the log, or even the book. If you look closely with a magnifying glass, you might see extra fingers or strange outlines. These are the coins that spark bidding wars at auction houses. There are also off-center strikes, die cracks, and coins struck on the wrong metal planchets. All of these minting mistakes make a coin one of a kind, and collectors love owning something that's not just rare, but accidentally unique. Even small details matter. For example, some of these coins were minted in Philadelphia, others in Denver, and some as special satin finishes for collectors only. The satin finish versions, especially in top condition, are far harder to come by today and can fetch a nice premium. So why do collectors care so much about this coin? Because it tells a story. It's not just about Lincoln, it's about history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of finding something extraordinary in something so ordinary. It's the reason coin collecting is never boring. You never know when a penny might be worth a fortune. And now, for the part you've all been waiting for, how much are these coins actually worth? A regular 2009 Formative Years penny found in your change is usually worth face value, just 1 cent. But if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, it could fetch a few dollars, especially if it's been graded and encapsulated. However, rare double die errors in mint condition have sold for serious money. In fact, one of these pennies with a strong doubling error was sold at auction for over $3,000. And another in near-perfect condition with no visible flaws was auctioned for more than $1,500. So before you toss that penny aside, take a closer look. You might just be holding a tiny piece of treasure. If you found this video fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coin stories, collector secrets, and hidden treasures from around the world. And remember, in the world of coins, even a penny can change your life. Top 2, we're zooming in on a coin that many people overlook, but collectors know has hidden secrets. We're talking about the United States 1-cent coin, the 1981 Lincoln penny. That's right, the humble 1981 penny might just be more exciting than you ever imagined. At first glance, it looks just like every other Lincoln cent. Honest Abe's profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing unusual, right? But here's the twist. Not all 1981 pennies are the same. Some are incredibly rare. Some have strange errors. And some are worth real money. Let's start with the basics. The 1981 penny comes from a fascinating moment in American coinage history. It was one of the final years that the U.S. Mint used 95% copper to strike pennies. Starting in 1982, they switched to a cheaper copper-plated zinc composition. That means the 1981 penny is one of the last of its kind, a true copper classic, heavier, more durable, and more collectible. Now here's where things get juicy. The 1981 Lincoln penny wasn't just made at one mint. It was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint produced slightly different coins, and some of these have very specific characteristics that collectors love. Most interesting of all? The proof pennies from the San Francisco Mint. Now, if you've never heard of a proof coin, buckle up. Proofs are specially made for collectors, polished blanks, struck multiple times with specially prepared dies, giving them that deep mirror shine. But in 1981, the U.S. Mint did something strange. They made two different types of proof pennies. That's right, there's a Type 1 and a Type 2. The difference is subtle, it's all in the S mint mark on the front. Type 1 has a blurry-looking S, while Type 2 has a sharp, clear S. The Type 2 proof is much rarer and far more valuable. If you have one of those in perfect condition, you might want to sit down when you hear what it's worth. But even among regular 1981 pennies, there are hidden treasures. Some coins were struck with doubling errors, where the image or text appears to be stamped twice. These are known as double die errors, and they can appear on the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. These kinds of errors turn an ordinary penny into a highly desirable collector's item. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin is misaligned during minting, and die cracks, where small imperfections in the die create raised lines across the coin. Some coins were even struck on the wrong metal blanks, creating bizarre and rare off-metal errors. These are the kinds of coins that spark bidding wars, because every collector wants something that no one else has. But don't forget, condition matters more than anything. A heavily circulated 1981 penny is common. But one in mint state, with no scratches, no wear, and beautiful natural luster, is much harder to find. Especially if it's been graded by a professional company like PCGS or NGC. High-grade coins always command a premium. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Just how much could a 1981 penny actually be worth? A standard 1981 penny in your pocket might just be worth 1 cent. But if you have one in uncirculated condition, especially graded MS66 or higher, it can be worth $20 to $50. If you're lucky enough to have a 1981 San Francisco Type 2 proof penny in pristine condition, its value climbs much higher. One of these rare proof coins has sold at auction for over $1,100, and that's not even the highest. A 1981 penny with a strong double die error, combined with top-tier condition, has sold for as much as $2,500. That's right. A coin you might have spent without thinking could be worth more than your monthly rent. So before you toss your spare change in a jar or hand it over at the store, take a closer look. You never know what treasure might be hiding in plain sight. Top 3, we're talking about a coin that's been sitting quietly in drawers, jars, and pockets for decades, the 1970 United States Lincoln cent. Don't let its simple look fool you. The 1970 Lincoln penny may just be one of the most underrated and unexpectedly valuable coins in your collection. If you love coin history, minting mysteries, and discovering the hidden value of pocket change, then stay with me, because you won't want to miss a second of this. So what makes the 1970 penny so special? First, a little background. By 1970, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 60 years. Designed by Victor D. Brenner, this coin features the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, and, at the time, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, introduced in 1959 to celebrate his 150th birthday. Now here's where things start getting interesting for collectors. The 1970 penny was minted in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint used slightly different dies and techniques, and some of the coins that came out that year ended up with errors, variations, and low mintage types that are incredibly valuable today. One of the most talked about versions of this coin is the 1970s small date Lincoln cent. The San Francisco Mint released both large date and small date versions, and telling the difference between the two takes a trained eye. On the small date variety, the number 7 in 1970 is level with the rest of the date, and the overall appearance of the numbers is more compact and delicate. But here's the catch: the small date version is much harder to find than the large date. And collectors go wild for it, especially in pristine condition. But that's not all. There's another feature that turns this coin into a showstopper: double die errors. The most famous is the 1970s small date double die obverse. That's a mouthful, but what it means is this: the front of the coin was struck with a die that had been stamped twice slightly out of alignment. The result? Obvious doubling on the date, the word liberty, and in God we trust. If you spot this kind of doubling, especially strong and clear, you're not just looking at a penny. You're looking at a prize. Collectors hunt for these double die coins relentlessly, because they're not just errors, they're minting miracles. Rare, mysterious, and often only spotted by the sharpest eyes, there are also other types of errors that can make a 1970 penny extremely valuable: off-center strikes, die cracks, bubbled plating, and even coins struck on the wrong metal planchet. Every one of these errors creates a unique piece, a one-of-a-kind treasure that collectors will pay top dollar for, and of course, condition is king. A coin in perfect, uncirculated condition, especially if it's been graded MS65 or higher by a professional company, will always fetch a much higher price than a worn one from your change jar. But wait, we haven't even talked about proof coins yet. The San Francisco Mint also released proof versions of the 1970 Lincoln cent. These were specially made for collectors with sharp details, mirror-like surfaces, and extra care during minting. And yes, both small and large date versions exist in proof form, but the small date proof is the one collectors are always chasing. So now you're probably wondering, how much are these coins really worth? Let's talk numbers. A regular 1970 penny in circulated condition. It's worth 1 cent, maybe a few cents to a casual collector, but a 1970s small date in mint condition? That one can be worth $50 to $200, depending on the grade. Now here's where it gets exciting. If you happen to own a 1970s small date double die obverse, especially one that's been professionally graded in high mint state, you're looking at some serious value. One of these rare coins was sold at auction for over $3,000, and that's not even the highest. A 1970s small date proof cent, with deep cameo contrast and perfect surfaces, once sold for over $4,500 at auction. Imagine, a penny that's worth more than an ounce of gold, just because of a small detail, a minting error, or a bit of copper history. So before you toss those old coins aside or spend that 1970 penny, take a closer look. Check the date, inspect the mint mark, and look closely for doubling or unusual features. That tiny coin could be the key to your next big discovery. Top 4, we're diving into the story behind the 1980 United States Lincoln cent, a coin that looks common on the surface but hides some fascinating secrets once you know what to look for. If you're a collector, or just curious about how a 1-cent coin could be worth real money, you're in the right place. Let's start with the basics. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of U.S. currency since 1909, but in 1980, something important was happening behind the scenes. This was a transitional era for the U.S. Mint. It was nearing the end of the pure copper coin era. Just 2 years later, in 1982, pennies would shift to a cheaper, lighter copper-plated zinc composition. So, yes, your 1980 penny is still made of 95% copper, which already gives it a different feel and weight than modern cents. But that's just the beginning of what makes this coin stand out. The 1980 Lincoln penny was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each version has its own appeal to collectors. Let's talk mint marks. The Philadelphia version of the 1980 penny was actually the first time in U.S. history that Philadelphia cents were struck with a visible P mint mark, but not on the penny. That honor didn't come until 2017. So if your 1980 penny has no mint mark, it's from Philadelphia. If you see a D, it was made in Denver. And if you see an S, that means it came from San Francisco, and that could mean you're holding a proof coin. Now, here's where things get exciting. although the 1980 penny was minted in large numbers, collectors are always searching for coins that stand out from the rest, and that means mint errors, varieties, and high-grade conditions. One of the most desirable types of errors in the 1980 penny is the double die. This happens when the coin design is impressed twice at slightly different angles, creating a doubling effect, often seen in the date, the word liberty, or in God we trust. These errors can be dramatic or subtle, but they're all extremely collectible. Another favorite among collectors is the off-center strike. This error happens when the blank planchet, that's the metal disc before it's turned into a coin, isn't properly aligned in the press. The result? A coin with part of the design missing or shifted to one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the more valuable the coin. There are also broad strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets, each creating a unique variation in what should be a standard coin. Even tiny imperfections can turn a regular penny into a one-of-a-kind collectible. And then there are the proof coins. The San Francisco Mint produced a limited number of proof pennies in 1980, designed specifically for collectors. These coins were made with polished blanks and struck with sharp detail, giving them a mirror-like surface. If you've got a 1980 penny with an S mint mark and it looks shiny, flawless, and super detailed, you might be holding a proof, but remember, condition is everything. A 1980 penny that's been through years of wear and tear isn't going to fetch top dollar. But one that's been carefully stored, kept in uncirculated or near perfect condition, especially if it's been professionally graded, can be a very different story. So here comes the big question: how much is a 1980 Lincoln penny actually worth today? Well, a regular 1980 penny in circulated condition is usually just worth face value, 1 cent. But if it's in uncirculated condition, with strong color, full details, and no damage, its value jumps. A beautiful, mint state 1980 penny, graded MS65 or higher, can be worth anywhere from $10 to $50, depending on the mint and quality. But here's where things get exciting. A 1980 penny with a double die error has sold for over $250 at auction. Even better, a 1980 S-proof penny in perfect PR70 deep cameo condition once fetched over $500, and yes, an extremely rare error coin from 1980 with a striking off-metal planchet, meaning it was struck on a blank meant for a different coin, was sold for more than $1,100. So next time you see an old penny from 1980, don't pass it up. Look for signs of doubling. Check for mint marks. Examine the coin's surface for any strange markings, off-center strikes, or proof-like finishes. You might just find yourself holding a piece of treasure that millions of others have overlooked. Top 5, and last rare coin. We're unlocking the secrets of a coin that millions of people have seen, but very few truly understand. It's small, it's copper-plated, and you've probably held dozens of them without a second thought. We're talking about the 1993 United States Lincoln penny, a coin that might seem like everyday pocket change, but under the right conditions, could be worth far more than 1 cent. Before you rush to check your spare change jar, stick with me, because what makes this coin valuable isn't just its age or design. It's the errors, the rarities, and the unexpected surprises that turn an ordinary 1993 penny into a true collector's prize. Let's take a closer look at the story behind it. The 1993 Lincoln cent features the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, a design that has been in use since 1909. On the reverse, you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, which had been featured on the penny since 1959. By 1993, this design had already become iconic, but while the design didn't change, the materials had. Since 1982, the U.S. Mint had been producing pennies with a zinc core and a thin layer of copper plating. So the 1993 penny is no longer made of solid copper like older cents. Instead, it's a lightweight zinc coin with a copper finish, and that change in material introduced new problems, and some very collectible mistakes. These mistakes are exactly what coin hunters look for. Although the 1993 penny was minted in huge quantities, over 14 billion coins between the Philadelphia and Denver mints, not all of them came out perfectly. And that's where things get interesting for collectors. Let's talk about errors. One of the most fascinating types of errors in the 1993 Lincoln cent is the double die, particularly a double die obverse. This happens when the die used to strike the coin imprints the design more than once, but slightly off-center. The result? Letters or numbers appear doubled, especially on Liberty, the date, 1993, or the phrase, "In God We Trust." Another known issue with 1993 pennies involves the copper plating itself. Because these coins are zinc inside and only coated in copper, some of them left the mint with bubbled, peeled, or cracked plating, all signs of minting flaws that can turn heads in the collecting world. And let's not forget about off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets, errors caused by the coin blank not being correctly positioned during the striking process. These types of coins have bizarre shapes, missing edges, or incomplete designs, and they're favorites among error collectors. But even without an error, condition alone can make your 1993 penny valuable. Coins that have been preserved in mint state, with no scratches, no wear, and sharp details, are much rarer than you might think. Remember, these coins were meant to be spent. So finding one in flawless condition, especially graded by PCGS or NGC as MS67 or higher, is no easy task. Now, some 1993 pennies also have what's known as floating roof errors, a minor variation in the reverse design, where the roof of the Lincoln Memorial appears to be floating because of weak or missing vertical lines. While subtle, this kind of variation can increase a coin's appeal to certain collectors who love chasing down small design changes. Another point to watch for is the 1993 D penny from the Denver Mint. While not rare in itself, coins from this mint that contain die cracks, cuts, raised blobs where parts of the die broke, or misaligned dies are always in demand. So, with all these possibilities, mint errors, design quirks, and pristine condition, what's the 1993 Lincoln penny really worth? Let's get to the part you've been waiting for. A regular, circulated 1993 penny with no errors is usually worth just 1 cent. Maybe a few cents to a beginning collector, but if you find a 1993 penny with a clear double die, especially on the obverse, it could sell for over $100, depending on the strength of the doubling and condition. A coin with major plating errors, like peeled copper or zinc rot from poor bonding, has sold at auction for as much as $200. And here's the real kicker. A 1993 Lincoln cent in perfect MS68 red condition, graded by PCGS, has sold for over $350 at auction. That's right. One small, shiny penny, barely the size of a thumbnail, sold for more than the average car payment. So if you have a 1993 penny, take a closer look. Use a magnifying glass. Check the date, examine the letters, inspect the surface. You might just find a hidden treasure that most people wouldn't give a second glance at. If you enjoyed this video and want more coin stories, rare finds, and real values from the world of collectibles, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss another hidden gem. Thanks for watching, and remember, in the world of coins, even the most ordinary looking penny could be worth something extraordinary.